Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to just express my own perspective on this matter, and I do respectfully disagree with, I think, several of the perspectives that have just been articulated. I think we all know that there has been a long history of at-large elections when coupled with racially polarized voting patterns have worked to the detriment of ethnic and racial minorities in our electoral history, really impacting every community that we have reflected in the state of California. And I do want to take into account Mr. Gallagher's suggestion around monolithic voting. I think one of the things that we've seen with district elections is by giving voters who haven't had influence in the past the ability to have a little bit more influence in those elections. Oftentimes, when they don't even have an opportunity to vote someone from their own background, it gives them more of an opportunity to choose among different candidates who are more responsive to those communities. The other thing I would say is certainly this has been the experience in my city of San Francisco, but we've also seen this around the state, that with at-large elections, those elections are so much more expensive that it often, again, dilutes the power of grassroots constituencies to have more of an influence in the process. So all that being said, I'm happy to support this bill. Also happy if the author wishes it to be added as a co-author on this bill, and want to thank you for your work.
Through the chair.
Mr. Gallagher.
Just
briefly.
one response to that. Now, this particular legislation, though, is not dealing with district versus at-large elections. This is talking specifically about district elections, but being able to file lawsuits and recover, penalties if you're successful, saying that the district elections violate the CVRA.
Certainly,
Is that right?
Certainly, absolutely. But again, we want to make sure that even our district-based electoral systems are structured in a way that is fair and that's constitutional, and that really, again, reflects the diversity of our voters.
And I think that given some of the debate that's here and some of the uncertainty, I think this bill provides some structure under which to have a forum to look at exactly those particularities, because every single district in this state will be different with its demographics, with its mix. And how I see this bill working effectively is that it creates an opportunity for that unique circumstance to be brought forward and then looked at by a judge and by the experts and be able to decide based on all of those factors, because we can't legislate specifically for each district throughout the state, but providing that framework I think is very, very important. All right, Mr. Alejo, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for the discussion. But when I talk about this issue, I'm not talking about hypotheticals about what community is monolithic. I'm here today only because of district-based elections, and I mentioned it yesterday in our debate on the floor. My hometown, the city of Watson, was the landmark case in the Ninth Circuit Court under the Federal Voting Rights Act that struck down at-large discriminatory election systems and instituted district elections, because when that lawsuit was filed by MALDIF in 1985, about 50% of the community was Latino. Numerous Latino candidates had run, and not one could ever win an election. As soon as they implemented district elections, we won the first Latino seats. We won our first Latino mayor. Now, and it's split. It's still about a little bit majority Latinos on the council. But nonetheless, when you look at that council, it's much more reflective of the community that it's serving, and to give an opportunity to minorities to serve on the city council and also in the mayorship. And with district elections, it's not just that. It's just that in my city, you had 3 council members living in the same neighborhood at the time the lawsuit was filed, and nobody could ever win on the poor side, the side across the tracks. On the west side or the downtown was mostly Latino, poor, heavily immigrant. Today, they have opportunities to serve as mayors, and there's each a council member that goes back to those neighborhoods that it's representing. So when there's issues of streetlights and parks and streets that need repair, that council member has to go back to those same neighborhoods and deal with the neighbors that raise those concerns with them. It's a more effective form of government. Every part of the city is represented on that council today. So when we talk about this issue, I have to always remind people I'm here because of those opportunities provided to young council members from cities like Watson that moved to district elections. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on the support measure.
Thank you. I'm still looking for a motion. Motions do pass. We have a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Wagner? Wagner, no. Alejo?
Aye.
Alejo, aye. Chow? Chow, aye. Chu? Chu, aye. Gallagher? Gallagher, no. Garcia? Garcia, aye. Holden? Mainshine? O'Donnell? O'Donnell, aye.
Your bill is out.
Thank you very much.
That takes us to item number 7, AB 1448. Ms. Lopez.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I would like to thank you, the committee staff, for working with my office in accept the committee amendments. Today, I'm pleased to present to you AB 1448. This bill will allow Californians to hand in their clothes on dry trucks, clothesline, and similar device. Today, more and more people are looking different ways to use less energy and to save money. This bill makes sure that our residents have the right to dry their clothes outside without fear of being asked to leave their apartments. This bill does not allow for tenants to danger the property of hanging clotheslines without reasonable restriction. This bill not allow to clothesline to hanging only in the public view, only disclosed in the private sector. Here with me, I have 2 witnesses to testify.
Thank you. First witness, please.
Thank you. Mindy Spat with TURN, the Utility Reform Network. We wanted to thank you to the chair and to the whole committee and to Assemblymember Lopez for this very simple energy-saving bill. AB 1448 has no downside, only benefits. It has the benefits in reduced energy bills and reduced shutoffs, benefits in conserving energy that will mean fewer power plants, benefits in reduced emissions that are very consistent with our state's goals through AB 32. And we would contrast this extremely low-tech solution to energy savings with some of the rather high-tech and expensive ones our state has invested billions in. Smart meters, $4.5 billion, no discernible energy efficiency benefits so far. The solar initiative, which put 1 million solar rooftops, $2.8 billion in subsidies that mostly went to very wealthy zip codes. Solar Water Heating and Efficiency Act, greenhouse gas reductions, these are all adding to our energy bills and increasing the number of Californians that face energy shutoffs every month. In contrast, a clothesline or a drying rack requires no subsidy, no expensive advertising campaign by our utility companies, no lengthy CPUC proceeding. There is simply no downside to the use of a clothesline. And while this may seem unnecessary, the fact is that just in March alone, 72,000 people in our state were shut off because they can't pay their bills. So everything we do to help them reduce their bills is going to help reduce those shutoffs. We also know that the objections from the homeowners associations are primarily that they somehow believe that the sight of clothes drying will decrease property values. There's just no empirical evidence to back up that claim. We have also heard from the Chinatown Community Development Corporation that, in fact, use of clotheslines by low-income tenants in San Francisco has resulted in threats of eviction. That is simply untenable. Our state is supposed to have a commitment to reducing our energy usage, conserving energy efficiency, and we should join the 19 other states that have already passed similar legislation and have really not seen any downside to it. Again, we thank the committee very much for its consideration today. TURN is the sponsor of this bill.
Thank you. Next witness, please.
My name is Laura Schaefer, and I've been a clothesline advocate for 12 years. I've been going out to farmers markets, eco fairs, the Maker Fair. I have a small business that sells clotheslines. I'm a former board member of Project Laundry List, which is a national nonprofit organization supporting the right to dry across America. 50 pounds of carbon per year will not go in the atmosphere if you use a clothesline or drying rack once a week. You multiply that across the state, California's carbon emissions drop dramatically. The dryer uses more energy than any other household appliance besides the refrigerator. So just simplifying it and saying you can use a clothesline, and why do we need to legislate this? It's so that you don't have to go housing organization by condo association and do it piecemeal. The urgency of climate change requires that the government take action and take it now. We don't want to be the turkey that in 10 years we say, why didn't we do that? A clothesline is simple, and we need to legislate it so that you don't have to go and fight for 2 years with your housing organization to allow a clothesline. I've gone into Luther Burbank Senior Housing. It took 2 years of committee meetings, of tenant councils, of proving that it's effective when people just want to hang out their laundry in their own backyard. The aesthetics. In the 1950s, housing organizations didn't allow blacks or Jews. That legislation had to be legislated out of CC&Rs. We can legislate clotheslines to be legal. We do need to make them legal. They're not illegal, but they're regulated. And nobody should be evicted or even have to hassle for 2 years to save energy and to lower their carbon footprint. It really is urgent. I'm fighting for my grandchildren's future, that I had a really pleasant life growing up in California. I could hang out my laundry. But when I lived in a mobile home park, I was not allowed to hang out my laundry. I went guerrilla, and I started a business so that I could make aesthetic clotheslines. And I've been doing this for 7 years, and I've talked to many people who say, I would hang out my laundry, I'm not allowed. And so I think the state has a responsibility to legislate clotheslines so that anybody doesn't have to hassle, and they can start today, tomorrow, this summer. And you will see carbon go down in California. California should be leading this. We have more sunshine. Southern California, Northern California, we should be leading. There are 5 states ahead of us that have passed clothesline legislation: Hawaii, Vermont, New Hampshire, Florida, and Utah. We should lead with them and lower our carbon footprint today. Thank you so much.
Next witness, please.
Dennis Garcia on behalf of the Consumer Federation of California, in support.
Ignacio Hernandez, I'm also here on behalf of TURN, just to help answer any technical questions about the amendments that were accepted.
Thank you. Any audience members in support? If you give your name, your association, and that you support it.
California Bar Associations, this is a reasonable bill to allow individuals to do something good for the for the environment, save a couple of bucks. We support it.
Thank you.
Gil Tupidi with the California Municipal Utilities Association, representing over 40 publicly owned electric utilities and utility districts, in support.
Diana Rude of the California State Grange. We represent 185 granges across the state. We've taken a position in support of this bill.
Rebecca De La Rosa with Latino Coalition for a Healthy California, in support.
Thank you. Anyone else in support? Seeing none, any opposition? Could you make room at the table, please?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Sean Tepekian on behalf of the California Apartment Association. We are still opposed, but we really appreciate the amendments that the Assembly member has taken and is willing to take. Certainly makes the bill a lot better than it was and moves in the right direction. Our concern has always been the aesthetics of the property. As a landlord, as a property owner, owners have the duty to ensure that their properties are in good visual order. Our concern is allowing the other tenants to have to, stare at other tenants' clotheslines and or clothing and undergarments, and that creates a concern for folks. In addition, clotheslines could affect the marketability of a property. You know, if somebody comes in and sees a lot of these, it could, you know, deter other potential tenants from renting or moving into the apartment community. For those reasons, we're still opposed. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Ron Kingston representing 5 apartment associations today: Orange County Apartment Association, California Southern Cities, East Bay, NorCal, and North Valley. We too join in opposition to oppose the bill primarily just on aesthetics. The aesthetics tenants choose apartments for the purpose of appearance as well as location, pricing, but appearance is important to them as it is to landlords and property managers. There has been no evidence that has been presented by the proponents of this bill to demonstrate where landlords are wholesale, as was characterized, discriminating like a person who is Jewish. We personally take quite substantial offense to that comment that was made. But most importantly, this is a bill on aesthetics. If there was a balance which has not been demonstrated, a balance that has shown that the parties would come together, that would be a point of discussion, but that has not been offered, and respectfully we ask for a no vote.
Thank you. Next witness in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Carrie Mazzoni for the educational community of homeowners. We haven't opposed unless amended. We are very pleased with the author's amendments, and we will review those. I think the only thing outstanding are just a few technical things, so we're hopeful as the bill moves forward to address those. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness, please. If you'd state your name, your organization, and your opposition to the bill, please.
Mr. Chair and members, Pat Moran with Aaron Reed and Associates representing the San Diego County Apartment Association. We're opposed to the bill for the reasons previously stated, but appreciate the author's willingness to work with us on amendments. Thanks.
Mr. Chair and members, Steve Carlson for the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles, Santa Barbara Rental Property Association. We are opposed to the bill, and we're quite shocked by the hyperbole of some of the sponsors of the bill. This is something that should be worked out between landlord and tenant, not be mandated by the government.
Thank you. Next, please.
Catherine Borg with the Western Manufactured Housing Communities in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testimony in opposition? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the committee. Questions, comments? Seeing none, Ms. Lopez, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And
I'm
yes.
sorry. Mr. Chu, did you have a...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to just state a few words on this. First of all, I am very familiar with this situation in my own district in certain low-income neighborhoods where you will often find, particularly where there are a lot of SROs, single-room occupancy buildings where you have families living 2, 3, 4 in rooms of 10 by 15 feet who don't have spaces to do this, who also, for that matter, can't afford a dryer, who need options. And as was laid out in at least one of the support letters for my district, there has been evidence of landlords using laundry as a reason to evict tenants from their homes. And so that is an issue that we have seen in our district in San Francisco. I also want to mention that I think the author's amendments really do very narrowly tailor what we're talking about. The fact of the matter is we are talking about clotheslines and drying racks that need to be approved by the landlord with requirements that these lines and racks shall not interfere with the maintenance of the property, that they shall not create health or safety hazards, block doorways, or interfere with walkways. And the fact of the matter is this law doesn't prevent or prohibit any reasonable time or location restrictions. To me, I feel like those are extremely tailoring, and because of that, I think is worthy of our consideration, and I'm happy to support it today.
Thank you. Ms. Garcia.
Thank you. I'm going to piggyback on Mr. Chu's comments. I've been personally talking to the California Apartment Association about this bill now since it was first introduced. I myself am a landlord, and I worry about aesthetics, but I also worry about making sure my tenants are able to afford what they need to afford, and I keep them there, because anytime I have turnover, it's more expensive for me, and so having a good tenant there. Most tenants do work with their tenants, as the analysis says, to try to accommodate, but you have tenants out there who don't, and I think this bill, from where it was at to where it's at today has been really narrowed. The mere fact that you have to have permission off of the landlord is a really big deal, but at least it brings the landlord to the table saying, hey, we need to talk about this for those landlords that don't even want to discuss this. And so I want to encourage the opposition to continue to work with the author on this bill, who has been very open to amendments and has been very accommodating. And I encourage you to I hope this bill proceeds. I'm going to make the motion to move the bill if it hasn't been moved today.
So the motion is do pass as amended to Housing Community Development. I'll take that as a motion. Is there a second? There is a second. Thank you. Comments? Ms. Lopez, you may close.
Yes, Mrs. Sharon. I just asking you for your iPod.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Wagner?
Nope.
Wagner, no. Alejo? Chow?
Aye.
Chow, aye. Chu?
Aye.
Chu, aye. Gallagher? Garcia?
Aye.
Garcia, aye. Holden? Mainshine? Mainshine, no. O'Donnell?
No.
O'Donnell, no.
All right. You need 2 more votes, so we'll hold it.
Thank you.
Put that bill on call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Eggman. Item number 3, AB 830. Please, go ahead.
Good morning. I am pleased to present today AB 830, a bill that just makes clear to Californians, including transgender women and men, that are afforded the same protections against violence or threats of violence based on their gender. I would like to thank the committee for working with my staff, and I will be accepting the amendments listed in the analysis as an author amendment. We've all heard sobering statistics of women being victims of stalking, threats, or violence. However, these problems are particularly pronounced within the LGBT community. Transgender women face extraordinary challenges in their daily lives. There have been 11 transgender women killed this year, many of them women of color, with an untold number of trans women being subjected to threats or acts of violence. According to another study, 64% of transgender people have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime. Civil Code 52.4 was originally enacted in 2002 by then Assemblymember Hannah Beth Jackson as a means to curb violence and sexual assault against women. However, it is unclear whether this protection extends to transgender women. AB 830 just seeks to clarify this discrepancy by conforming the definition of gender with the Unruh Civil Rights Act. We have a broad coalition of supporters, including AFSCME, Equality California, California Women Law Center, and National Association of Social Workers. There is no registered opposition. Here with me today is Larry Doyle, who is with the California Conference of California Bar Associations, to answer any technical questions, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote for this very small bill that extends justice to transgender women as well.
Thank you. Mr. Doyle, are you here for testimony as well?
No, not necessarily, if the committee has any questions.
Okay.
But I respect the committee's time.
Thank you. Any testimony in support? We do have a motion and a second. Is there anyone in support? All right.
Consumer Attorneys of California in support.
Thank you. Anyone else in support? Seeing none, is there any opposition? Seeing none, questions, comments from the committee? Seeing none, Ms. Eggman, you may close.
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. And the motion is due pass as amended. Call the roll.
Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Wagner? Aye. Wagner, aye. Alejo? Alejo, aye. Chow?
Aye.
Chow, aye. Chu?
Aye.
Chu, aye. Gallagher? Garcia?
Aye.
Garcia, aye. Holden? Mainshine?
Aye.
Mainshine, aye. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye.
That bill is out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chu, are you ready to present? Sure. We'll go to item number 4, AB 960.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do know I have a couple witnesses who are family, and they're coming up the stairs right as we speak, but I will get started.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and colleagues, I appreciate your consideration of AB 960, which would update California's assisted reproduction laws to ensure that all families have equal protection under the law. Current California law does not require unmarried couples using assisted reproduction with a donor as parents, even though many unmarried couples conceive children in this way. Current law also requires that a doctor or a sperm bank needs to be involved, or else a sperm donor could be considered a legal father. Many parents, gay and straight, use home insemination to conceive because they can't afford to conceive using a sperm bank or a doctor, which can cost hundreds or thousands of dollars per month. The parental rights of these couples are unclear, and their sperm donors are at risk of being required to pay child support. AB 960 provides equal protection for these two kinds of families, for unmarried parents using assisted reproduction, as well as parents using known donors who use at-home insemination and don't go through a doctor. Also, AB 960 provides clear direction for how egg donors should be treated under California law, which currently lacks specific and explicit guidance regarding egg donors. In summary, AB 960 would make it clear that intended parents who use donated sperm or eggs, or both, are treated equally under the law, whether or not they are married and whether or not the assisted reproduction occurs with the help of a doctor or a sperm bank. And with that, looks like one of my witnesses has just sat down, and I'd like to turn it over to her.
Thank you. First witness, please.
Thank you very much, Chair and members. I'm Kathy Sakimura, the Family Law Director at the National Center for Lesbian Rights, which is a co-sponsor of AB 460. At NCLR, we receive hundreds of phone calls from families in California who are conceiving through assisted reproduction. And a large number of these families are using at-home insemination with a known sperm donor. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And also, many of these calls come from unmarried parents. But unfortunately, we have to tell these families that there's no protections for them under California law, and that until they're able to do an adoption after their child is born, they won't be recognized as a family. And in that time period, they'll be vulnerable. Excuse me. This means that families using at-home insemination, their sperm donor may be a parent, legal parent of their child, until they're able to complete an adoption many months after the child is born. And for unmarried parents, the non-biological parent won't be able to be on the birth certificate and may have trouble putting the child on their health insurance. AB 460 puts California in line with the trend of states recognizing these families and providing protections for them, regardless of how they conceive their children. And so thank you for your consideration, and we urge your support for this bill.
Thank you. Next witness, please.
I am surviving on very little sleep thanks to my one-year-old daughter, so I'm going to be reading a script to help me along here. Good morning, honorable members of the Assembly Judiciary Committee. My name is Monica Wallace. This is my spouse, Dawn Wallace, and our daughter, Kyle Wallace. We are here to testify in support of AB 960 by Assemblymember Chu. As parents, we are happy to see that AB 960 would remove the requirement from family law that couples must involve a doctor when using assisted reproduction in order to ensure that the donor is not a parent. Many families simply cannot afford to conceive using a sperm bank or a doctor, which can cost hundreds or thousands of dollars per month. Once we decided we were ready to start our family, we set out on the daunting task of looking through hundreds of profiles at different sperm banks. Perhaps what was even more daunting was the thousands of dollars we spent every month over the course of nearly 3 years. In the beginning, we did not even consider finding a known donor because of the lack of protection for our family and the risk to the donor of being considered a parent when he did not want to be. However, after trying for 3 years and not conceiving, with no medical explanation available, we decided to venture into the risky, unprotected territory of using a known donor after all. This decision came after much of our savings was depleted. We also came to understand that medically the chances are much higher for conception when using fresh sperm rather than frozen sperm from a sperm bank. We started over and spent months searching for a donor, overwhelmed with feelings of concern and fear over having to trust someone enough to donate to our family cause, knowing that they might change their mind about their role as donor and enforce paternal rights. We finally found our donor, and after 3 insemination attempts on our own, we were successful in getting pregnant. We decided that the long quarantine periods and costs made it impractical at that point to go through a donor for the collection of sperm or insemination. Yet we understood and were very concerned we were taking a legal risk by inseminating on our own. We did all we could to protect ourselves before conceiving, including putting contracts in place detailing the intended roles and intentions of each party, knowing they were not legally binding but hoped they would help should anything fall apart. Then we began the second waiting period, anticipating the birth of our baby, a time that should have been a joyful anticipation and the normal concerns that come with new parenthood. Instead, our 9 months was filled with anxiety over the possible implications for not having legal protection until our baby was born and Dawn was able to adopt her own daughter. This was also a vulnerable and risky position for our donor. It felt awkward and improper to see his name listed as a father to our baby on paperwork when that was completely inaccurate. We are our daughter's only parents, and our donor was a very nice person that was just that, a donor. He was not signing up for the role of a parent. As part of the adoption process, we endured a social worker coming into our home, asking us questions and assessing if we were fit to be parents. Once again, we emptied our wallets to pay for the adoption lawyer, home study, and adoption fees, and finally, 6 months after our daughter was born, we were a legal family that nobody could tear apart. Of course, this in and of itself was expensive and much of it felt invasive. Today, we have a very happy, healthy, beautiful daughter. We are so grateful she is here. But we believe that no family should have to go through so much anxiety and legal uncertainty when having a child. We would hope, though, that families like us in the future are afforded the integrity and basic rights that would protect all the members in their intended roles of their child. As we look forward to the possibility of having another child, we would most certainly appreciate having the protection we all deserve, starting from conception and not being left penalized for how we grow our family. There are many parents like us conceiving children using assisted reproduction, and several states have already updated their assisted reproduction laws to provide equal protection for these families. With the passage of AB 960, California will finally recognize that families are formed in many ways and all are equally deserving of protection. Thank you for your time, and we respectfully request your support for AB 960.
Thank you. And we will take your daughter's comments as support as well. Next witness, please. If you could give your name, your association, and that you support the bill.
Certainly. Becca Kramer from the ACLU of California. In support of this bill, we respectfully request your aye vote.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Judy Appel. I'm the Executive Director of Our Family Coalition, the premier organization working to support LGBTQ families in California, and we are sponsors of this bill and are here to voice our support. Thank you.
Good morning, Alice Kessler. I'm here on behalf of Equality California. We're also a sponsor of the bill and would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Maya Scott Chung. I'm the Director of Conceptions Consulting, and I would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Any other support?
Authorized by Shannon Smith Crowley of the to say that the American Society for Reproductive Medicine supports this bill and urges your aye vote.
Thank you. Any other support? Seeing none, is there any opposition? Seeing none, bring it back to the committee. Questions, comments? We do have a motion and a second. Mr. Chu, you may close.
Colleagues, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Call the roll, please. And this is due pass.
Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Wagner? Aye. Wagner, aye. Alejo? Alejo, aye. Chow? Chow, aye. Chu?
Aye.
Chu, aye. Gallagher? Gallagher, aye. Garcia? Aye. Garcia, aye. Holden? Holden, aye. Mainshine? Mainshine, aye. O'Donnell? Aye. O'Donnell, aye.
Your bill is out. Thank you.